This week's episode of the Wrong Advice Podcast is brought to you by Abby and Marie. Abby and Marie are a husband and wife team curating furniture from Bauhaus designs, mid-century modern, postmodern, and recent vintage. Abby and Marie starts with the classics and then throws in some fun pieces. Right now, they're really into sourcing vintage museum exhibition prints and vintage IKEA. They believe that good design can come from any era, it's just a matter of choosing what best suits your style. Head over to Instagram at Abby and Marie to check out their page and make sure to give them a follow. And thanks again to Abby and Marie for sponsoring today's podcast. Welcome back to the Wrong Advice Podcast. I'm your host, John Pacciuto, and I'm very excited to have my buddy BS on with us on the pod today. BS, how you doing, my friend?
I'm feeling good, John. Thank you for having me, bro.
No, my pleasure, man. Can you give us a quick introduction to the listeners to who you are?
Absolutely. Yo, my name is BS, the only BS you can trust, turning best self into better self, even if it just looks like BS to anybody else. I'm a freestyler, songwriter, beatboxer, friendly neighborhood noisemaker, and word worker.
Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I mean, noisemaker. I like that. That's good. Tell me about everything that you just said, but more importantly, how did you know that you wanted to be a freestyler? How did you realize that you had a gift for beatboxing? What was that like? How old were you? Do you remember?
Sure. I've always been kind of making like sounds. Mm-hmm. I realized in 2024 that this might have just been me stimming this whole this whole time.
Whole spectrum, okay.
Yeah. Shout out to my fellow neurodivergents. So just making funky sounds has always been a thing. Putting it in rhythm and music came later. I was a late blooming creative actually. So my first creative outlet was aggressive inline skating.
Oh shit.
So kind of I guess reinterpreting architecture kind of differently. People see a handrail and put their hands on it. I see it and I want to jump on it and do stuff. Yeah. So for me it's it originally started just being really upset. There was a notebook. I would write. It happened to rhyme. It became this kind of art catharsis kind of thing. And then probably my early 20s, I realized that I didn't have to be mad or upset or have these feeling overwhelmed to engage in art. And so I got plugged into a few New York City scenes, Def Clone Bug Out Sessions, which was the precursor to legendary ciphers in Union Square Park. If you listen in, Fridays from May to November, Union Square Park, New York City, legendary ciphers, free. Go check it out. It's raw, it's real, and it's fun. Just started playing games and realizing there's this whole world of emotion and this whole world of expression, and I don't need to be feeling either really amazing or really shitty to express myself. So it kind of started from there. I felt like I was kind of sneaking onto the hip hop train. I was I'm sneaking into the battle with my cousin's ID. I'm 19. I'm late. Yeah. Which is really funny to say now, much older. Yeah. And be I thought I was late at 19, but popped in there, started running around New York City. It's doing a lot of street performing. My brother, not blood brother, but chosen brother. His name's Gray Matter. He's a beatboxer, and we used to just run around and just perform for people on the streets. Not even on some busking, asking for money stuff. We would just literally oh, hey, do you want to have a hip hop moment? It's free. Yeah. It's free and not gross. Yeah. I swear. Yeah. And it would kind of go from there. What's your favorite color?
So the 19 was when you first started?
19. Yeah.
What was the lead into the moment where you're this is something that I want to do in front of other people? Because I feel like a lot of people have spent time alone in the room writing musically or poem or whatever, lyrically, whatever they want to say. When were you feeling comfortable enough or, ballsy enough to be I want to go and fucking share this with other people?
There were a few moments. So I come from a skate park kind of mentality, right? So if you're not falling, you're not learning. Yeah. So send it has always been kind of the thing. So I used to put my skates on and jump off roofs when I was a teenager. But that's what I had to remind myself the first time I got on stage, where it was all right, you've jumped off a roof and you decided that this was fine. So performing in front of this room of mostly strangers,
that's nothing.
Right. We already turned off the you might die voice. So what is this? you know? And it took a few repetitions. I was part of a duo called Dollar Coffee. We did Amateur Night at the Apollo in 2011.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it was one of those being in front of this crowd. It's thousands of people and it's boo, boo. And I realized that I'm only getting booed because I'm not this person's cousin who's about to do a Marvin Gaye cover.
Yeah, right.
And once I realized that I could stand up to the most notorious, hater crowd in the world. Like I felt really empowered after that. Also just street performing where I could kick a freestyle that I thought was like A+++ grade, and somebody who's just not into rap goes, and turns around and walks away, and it was fine. Go kick a C grade freestyle and end up on 106 in Park. Yeah. Like it just this kind of like empowerment stretch, and then trying to do the normal thing. Yeah. Like I worked at an office for a little bit. I worked at a teacher's college. I was an admin running a whole bunch of like administrative processes for a few different departments in there. Education's always been like a side of like what I do. And I just got to the point where like I was about to go into my first job out of school, and it's the NYU Child Study Center. And I just hit an open mic at Fordham. I was living in Brooklyn, like in Gowanus, so this slept 3 hours, have this coffee spilled, and there's this like truck coming, and I'm looking, and I was like, I don't want to go to this place anymore. Wow. And I'm on this curb, and I was like, man, if I just lean forward another 3 or 4 inches, I never have to go into this place ever again. And that's when I was like, I need to do something different. Fuck. Yeah.
I had a very relatable, albeit not suicidal experience, but like I lost my job during the pandemic, and it felt like the end of the world for me. I was like, I have no purpose, I have no place, I have nowhere to go. And it was sort of a very similar moment where you're understanding outside of yourself that like, this is not right. This is not right for me. What I'm doing is not working. It's time to pivot and make a drastic change. Was that moment for you a fight or a flight response? And if so, which one did you kind of, lean towards? Was it more fight or more flight?
That's interesting. Was it fight or flight?
Because like very much for me, it was like 50-50. Because I was like, well, I'm broke, so I need to fight. Like I need to make money. I need to survive. And it was flight because I was like, I need to get the fuck out of corporate America. I can't do this shit anymore, and I got to go worry about myself and do my own thing. And for the better part of the last 4 years, it's like, I've been on my own, like 100%. I mean, granted, with the help of like family and friends, like I've gotten where I'm at in my life, where I have a very great life right now. But it was in that moment where like everything fell apart and everything fell away that it was left to me to decide, what am I going to do? Who am I going to be? What was that like for you?
I want to give you like a fist bump for that, man. Like, thank you for sharing. Like, that's real shit. Like, that's real shit. And it's it's only right. It's only when everything comes, all the building blocks come down, that you have a chance to rebuild it all the way that you would like to see it. I think for me it was also both, because this was circa 2007 maybe. So like the bankers were broke. Yeah, right. So it was one of those things where I was like, all right, if the bankers are broke and clearly miserable, and I'm broke and miserable, then I might as well be broke and miserable on my own terms.
Doing what I want.
And so that led to like a phase, I used to call it the odd job hustle dance,
My 2024 in a nutshell.
I was a TA for an NYU professor. I was doing like childcare. I was like Mr. Manny, like running around Battery Park City and like Soho, working with these like really very generous, very cool families in the area, and kind of like moving through there. Ended up doing a little bit of work with Tommy Boy Records kind of in that time. Had a couple like one-off releases, and then honestly I tried, like I had a relationship that was kind of woven through these other things, a personal relationship that fell apart. I was like, oh my God, like I don't know, it stopped being as fun. It became more, okay, I need to make a thing that now unlocks a door where there's a hallway of other doors. And if I pick the right door after that, maybe somewhere after that, there's success or security so went for it, had that all fall apart. And then tried to do this admin gig, which then took me into formal classroom teaching for a little while. So my mom's from Cuba, so hablo español, English, Spanish, and I was teaching dual language, like second grade dual language.
That's cool.
Full-time grad school, full-time first year teach, full-time, and it made me want to die after a certain point. And from there, it was like, okay, I've been trying to do the normal thing. I've been fighting with the normal thing this whole time. I've learned a lot from these different pit stops in my journey, and I think it's okay to stop listening to, I don't know, family, society, expectations, and just like this voice in me I can't make it stop. Yeah. So
I think the most relatable thing that I've uncovered in my life is that no matter where I'm at, age and where I'm perceived to be will never be the same. Like, I'm 38. I should be married. I should have a white picket fence. I should have 2.5 kids. I don't have any of those things.
37,
and
baby.
It works for me. And for some people that is like very much the American dream. Like my brother's got 4 kids, God bless him. He's wanted that his entire life.
Yep.
So it's okay to not be the norm and have a life that works for you. I am actually very curious because going from the NYU space to freestyle, rapper, beatboxer, musician is a huge sidestep.
Yes, it is.
Did you have issues or imposter syndrome ingratiating yourself into a culture that is, I would say, pretty wildly outside of the typical Ivy League sort of upbringing?
I'd say yes and no. It was definitely a point in time in my life where I was so hungry and so scrappy, like not even on some career aspirations or wanting to make money kind of thing. It was just like I came into it battling as an earlier part, so again, being this angry kid. So just having a consensual space to pop off was everything. So sorry, ADHD moment. Rethread me into the question, please, John.
I was like, did you have any issues facing imposter syndrome coming from a world of like the Ivy League, the perceived privilege of such, and bringing yourself into a space that is obviously very different from that?
Yeah, I did, but it was also a point in time where you could just walk outside and there were people ciphering. It was just, in New York City at least, there was so much more happening that if you could just stand there and hold your ground, then you would be respected.
Okay.
And so like I was able to just be so fiery and like just pop off hard enough that was all right. Every now and then, sprinkle a little bit of Spanish into the flows just so motherfuckers don't forget.
But also nobody has any idea what you're saying.
Well, yeah, right.
Well, I mean, a small percentage.
Some. But they still go,
yeah.
Like, oh, we thought what are you?
Yeah, right.
So I did feel initially though, again, I thought I was in late.
Yeah.
So I felt like I snuck onto the hip hop train, so to speak, and I was just stowing away and hoping the conductor wouldn't find me. And if they did, then all right, I guess I'm just off the train. And I think I was on the train long enough, they just comped my ticket.
I love that analogy, first of all. Second of all, it's very funny to say at 20-ish or whatever you were that you thought you were late.
I thought I was late, bro.
Because like I've arrived in my life at late 30, mid to late 30s, and I understandably feel late. But then you read like all of these famous people who've done incredible shit later in life, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I think Vera Wang designed her very first dress at 50 something years old.
Yeah.
That's obviously not the norm, but that is to say that at any point in your life you can make tremendous seismic shifts in your life. And when you find the thing that's meant for you, it doesn't matter when it is, just fucking do it.
Agreed. If you hear the call, heed the call.
I love that. I should write that down. I like that. Okay, so you're 19, 20 years old. You've found something that you are obviously exceptionally good at and gifted at, and you are doing what with it in terms of trying to grow a name for yourself, a brand, a following. What is the process like being in stage one of this new act of your life, and what did you like learn from that experience in chapter one that has now led you down the road now at 37 to be in the position you're in?
Okay, well, chapter one is so much about just believing in yourself as much as you can, being grounded in your authentic self, and playing. Like, so a lot of what I do, right, is like facilitating and teaching now. And like folks be like, how do I get good at rap? And I honestly think back to my own experience as a skater and also as an MC and as a craftsperson. And it's like, rap as much as you can with as many different people as you can in as many different ways as you can. And I was lucky to come up in a time where I had all of my friends were either rappers or B-boys, B-girls, or DJs. They were all hip-hop culture crafts people, like to the point where I, for many, many years, had a lot of trouble connecting with quote unquote normies, quote unquote, like, sorry, like, highway people and back road people aren't always built the same. I'm sorry. No judgment. Yeah. We're just different.
Teach their own.
Exactly. Find your joy, hold your joy. Like, but I felt like that was like a really, really important part. It just, I don't know, there's like a skater mentality, and it's funny because rollerblading already hit its peak. It's kind of coming back up now, but like early 2000s, but there was this
Billy Madison. No.
Oh, you thinking? Oh, Big Daddy would throw the stick.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is jump.
Oh, so funny.
But I think about that where it's like there's this OG pro rollerblader named Robert Guerrero, and there's this old video of him. He won this competition, and he was like, "All I want to say is do it for the love. If you do it to get sponsored, I guess you can do that. But if you do it for the love, then the sponsor will happen on its own. Do it because you love it." Which I think I hear Gary Vee say similar things more recently, where it's like, love the process.
Yeah.
Right? If you love the process of what you do, then everything else will kind of take its shape. And I think that's a large part of it, especially then. Like the more like just joy you find in the mess, in the dirt, in the weeds.
In the non-success of it all.
Right. Yeah. In the process of it, in the parts of it that like enrich you as a human, as a person, which I mean, for me, an outlet, like a place to like expel all of this energy, community, like feeling heard, acknowledged, seen, being able to like stunt with my language if I wanted to, like just communication, active listening, like there's so much to be gained from the arts in general, but I think especially like improvisational things like hip hop, writing. The more that one can ground in those things, I think the less the career stuff matters, which I think makes it more likely to open up organically.
Oh, fuck. I love that. I fucking love that. So, dude, I love that. I think one of the most important things that you said was like trusting the process and like working through it, because as a person who's, I think this is my 138th, 139th podcast. As a person who's done a fuck ton of these things for $0, for like not for the monetary aspect of it, but simply for the joy of it. So many people want that overnight success in whatever it is they're doing, whether it's their creative career, whether it's their main job, whatever. And I think what gets lost is the fact that if you don't love what you're doing, the pursuit of money is not going to make it any better, right? Ooh. Right? So it's like, for me, it's like I do this thing all the time. It's something I love. Mm-hmm. I take hours out of my week to do this podcast. I don't care if I make 5 cents on it. I love to do it. And if you can figure out a way to monetize something like that, you're living the dream.
Yes.
But it doesn't always have to be that way.
Like 100%.
So much about like the internet and society is telling you, well, if you want to be successful, you can't have a 9-to-5 and be a creative.
Right.
I think I read recently like 16% of creatives are able to financially support themselves with their straight creative career. That's crazy small.
Yeah.
That's crazy small.
Yeah.
You don't have to do, it's not an either or thing.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It seems to me that you sort of made it an either or thing because you were like, I can't fucking do anything like this, right? So I'm curious, from a financial freedom perspective, from a stress perspective, how do you mitigate the creative blocks that come with like your financial troubles and or successes? Because for me, like I feel like I'm always able to create better when I'm like in a great money place, or like I feel creatively free in those places versus like, oh shit, it's the end of the month. Where's rent? Yeah. I don't want to be creative. Like I got to worry about like fucking getting gigs, right? So what is that like for you?
Well, for me, man, so I went to NYU. Mm-hmm. Which means Navient and I talk monthly. You know what I'm saying? Like we still talk monthly. Okay. To my chagrin.
Yeah. Gotta love those private lenders. Variable interest rates. Yeah, not ideal.
But I mean, I'm very much like I'm a freelancer, so like it's often feast or famine. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like when it's popping off, bro, it's popping off, and like there are moments where I'm like, my whole being, my energy, my soul, everything is devoted to this block of work, and then there's other portions where it's,
yeah,
and I'm sitting here just like, man, what do I even do with my life? Who am I? What am I? Like I'm just,
yeah.
And so like it's an interesting space. I think I do well under pressure. Like I think it's, I don't know, an ADHD thing where it's like, oh, chaos. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, we could do this. And everything's like, not chaos. I'm like, what's happening?
Dude, I don't know, is that an ADHD thing? Because I very, very much fuck with that. And that is me in a nutshell. If my back is not firmly pressed against the wall, I'm like, it's all right. No big deal.
Yeah.
I need to be like literally 1 inch below the water with like barely my lips above being able to breathe for me to be like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
I got to do it now.
Yeah. Same. There's like a certain like kind of like pressure. And for me, like, I think especially with like freestyle and like access to this like kind of flow state, place. I think that there's like, I imagine it as like a door, right? And one of the first things that brought me through that door was feeling big, difficult feelings. So when I'm in a space of big, difficult feelings, a lot of times the words just come. And so I've had to, this slight like left turn, but like, be very mindful of like, like catharsis is beautiful, and don't mine your trauma for art.
Ooh.
Like if it's happening naturally, don't stop it. But don't go back into it just because you feel like you need something, right? So I feel like in those back against the wall situations, some of my ventilation raps and all of this kind of stuff is going to come out great. Now, those might not be the things that I want to express. Those are the things I probably need to express in that moment, where I would much more likely be like, in my perfect world, I see superstars. I've got all these women, all these fancy cars, like whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't know if I actually want these things, but I'm not really a car guy. Yeah. Give me some rollerblades.
You live in New York.
So yeah, give me some new rollerblades. But like kind of having this, like being able to manage money, especially as like an ADHD person, it's so, man, I feel like this is like a vulnerable moment. Like, freestyle means you're making it up on the spot, you're improvising. And I don't think I'm alone in this, but I don't want to make this as a general statement for people who do what I do or anything else. But like freestyle is not just this craft thing that I do. It's also become a way that I live my life. Like I've just got used to like, all right, cool. I'm on a tightrope. There's no safety net. And I trust myself to catch myself if I fall. I've definitely been in New York and been at my absolute lowest and was able to pull it through. And at this point, I feel much more confident and grounded in myself as a creative, the things that I've built, the rep that I've built along this last like 15, I think we're somewhere between 15 and 20 years now, like kind of getting into this and putting all of this together, that I don't know. To some people, they might look at me and be like, bro, that's what? Like, I don't think everyone is built or could live the way that I am. Like, I've got student loan debt. I've got, all of this, and I'm here literally like alchemizing my living,
Cool, love that,
turning something out of nothing and just using my words and building things up. But, having a community who is down to receive the knowledge from this very like non-linear journey of mine so far has been like really, really great. And that's like Freestyle Fitness NYC is like my one of my main enterprises. And so like shout out to the Freestyle Fitness Village. But like having this like community has also been like a very like grounding thing financially, and also just interpersonally, and like, each one reach one to each one and pay it forward. So been able to help like cultivate this small community of like, at this point, very humble beasts, like folks 3 years, 4 years, 5 years rocking with me. So that has also helped kind of mitigate certain things. Pandemic business went virtual. So like I run virtual programming multiple times out of the week. We do in-person stuff monthly, sometimes a little bit more. So like being able to like take that freelance mentality of like, okay, this contract gig over here, this is where I go for my bread. Okay, this contract over here, that's where I get my produce. This one over here, that's the butcher. That's where I get my meat. And now if any one of them goes bad, then I just need to pick a new butcher.
Right.
I just need to pick a new like produce spot. I just need to, so kind of like similar mentality. All right, cool. I've got these other companies I do contract gigs with. They come when they come. Like my own business has become like an anchor gig. So kind of being able to, and again, it's it's educational. So, signups, there are people who come all the time. There are people who kind of in orbit who I see semi-frequently. And then, some people are like, oh shit, you back. Like, yeah. Like,
I'm curious, as a teacher of freestyle rap, if I'm a prospective student and I am ass, I cannot put two words together.
Most people start there. I started there.
What is the process like to get to a person who, like, not up to your level, obviously, but to a level of conversational freestyle, right? And how do I word this? What is it that they're doing it for? Are they ultimately trying to have a career in music and that they want to learn these skills? Or it's just like sometimes there's people who just like want to fucking learn how to rap.
Most people who come to Freestyle Fitness are not there to be career rappers or MCs, or there are a few who have started at Freestyle Fitness and have kind of started evolving in those directions, which here to support. But the point isn't to build MCs or build rappers. It's to create a space where folks can like build life and language tools, like through the medium of freestyle rap, and like be your authentic self, play. So many adults forget to play regularly, and then also celebrate progress, because that's really what it's about. Like, I got my shirt right here, practice makes progress. People say practice makes perfect. I think that's complete bullshit. Like, one, perfect's not real. Two, it'd be boring and predictable if it was. And I don't think any of us would actually like it. But progress is something that we can celebrate no matter what it looks like for any person. So, like, I don't do level 1, level 2, level 3 classes. I throw everyone in together.
Oh, shit.
So, like, I had someone last Friday, first time ever, in a Zoom room with 4 people, I think, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years rocking with me. And like, it can be an intimidating thing.
Oh, for sure.
And part of it is like, can you develop the skill of knowing you are surrounded by people who skill wise are just in a completely different, like there's no way you could touch them. And still you're going to sit there and do you, they're going to do them, and everyone's going to show everybody love the whole time. So like, as a cardinal rule, if you can already talk about it, way easier to rap about it.
Oh, interesting.
Way easier to rap about it.
Why do you say that?
Well, so you already have, like, you are a world of stories, right? Stories are the currency of life, right?
Oh, love that.
You have this whole wealth of your journey that no one knows better than you. No one knows what happened A to B to C. Who was there? What did it feel like? What did it smell like? What was that thing that happened that you were like, oh man, that person, they might have thought about it this way instead. Like, there's this whole realm. And when we let ourselves go and allow ourselves to share, whether it be here things that I remember, or this is my happy place, or like I do work with Freestyle Love Supreme, and one of their prompts for a game called True is like, what's something you can't live without? Like, these things more than anybody else. And so it really just becomes like, can you talk about it? Cool. So like, talk about it, and now put a beat on and talk about it. Don't worry about rhyming it. Just get comfortable expressing, because most people start something like this and then they make a mistake and then they stop.
Right.
Or
they feel like they embarrass themselves, or
right. But perfect freestyle is an oxymoron. There is no such thing as a perfect freestyle. You could be Harry Mack. Harry Mack still has crutches. Super Nat still has crutches. Like, perfect freestyle doesn't exist. It's improvised. The beauty is that it's perfectly imperfect. And often when someone falls into a hole, you have the opportunity for them to magically dig themselves out. And so, like, again, if we had this perfect scenario, we would never have these magic moments. So like, really, like, speaking to and from your experience, finding a space where you feel comfortable with, around people you feel comfortable doing that. And if you can build community, then it just becomes, I just hang out with my friends and share. There happens to be a beat on, maybe it rhymes sometimes, and then the more you do, the better you're going to get through repetition, right? Every lap around the clay block, it gets more and more and more defined.
What I think I like about that is it probably instills a lot of confidence in your students, right? So whether they're not directly...
participants.
Yeah, right. All right, nice. Whether or not they're actually utilizing these skills into a creative career, or whether they're using the skill to better themselves in a confidence perspective outside of the tutelage that you're giving them, I think there's obviously parallels there. I think most people's identify from a freestyle perspective is like, everyone thinks 8 Mile, right?
If it's a battle, especially,
right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you've done battles before. You've won some, you've lost some.
Yeah.
What is the feeling like when you win a rap battle? What is the feeling like if you've won a whole like event? Like, what do those victories feel like?
So wait, it's funny you mentioned this. Can I put the mic down for a second and grab something from my bag?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Pause. Oh shit! What does that say?
Yo, so you gave me the alley-oop, John. I had to come in with it. Yo, so I am holding.
This is so funny that I had no fucking idea that he had this. So this is like even better. Go. What is this?
This is the Freestyle Mondays championship belt. I am the current Freestyle Mondays battle champion.
And that happens weekly?
It used to be monthly back in the day. Now the organizer, shout out to Freestyle Mondays and Corey James Gray and the whole crew. Now it happens more. He's in Grenada. So it happens like a little bit more sporadically. But this last month, there were 2 events. I ended up taking them both. And there's another one Thursday, actually, at this festival happening on Little Island in the city. So I'll be defending. Yeah, I'll be defending my belt.
Was this the first time you won, or like? All right, so tell me the first time. I'm assuming it was many moons ago. You were young. You're chasing a career. You're chasing a passion. You're chasing a project of something that you're passionate about, and you win for the first time. What does that feel like? Validation.
I flipped. It took me 10 years to win for the first time.
Yeah, shit.
It took me 10 years. I think the first one I won was 2017.
Damn. Literally 10 years.
Yeah. So, and then since then, 6 times.
Oh, shit.
So I'll be defending for number 7, taking that shit home.
How many people do you go up against?
It depends. So it used to be back in the day, it was 16 total, and then go 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. Okay.
Like a bracket.
Mostly it'll be 8 nowadays, and I think because it's a special event coming up on Thursday, I think it's me and 3 other MCs. So
shit.
2 rounds. So it's a little bit of money on the line. So I'm
nice.
trying to.
Do you have to pay to go in, or it's?
Sometimes, yeah. Usually like $10. It's. I think it's more the formality of it.
Yeah.
But like back to you're talking about the money question, where it's just like, all right, cool. I'm gonna take that couple $100 and I'm gonna put it against my rent.
Nice.
But just just in my head, like, okay, cool. Trained to be undeniable. Walk in, like, yeah, it's my rent money.
It was 10 years before you won your first one.
Yeah.
And during how many moments in that 10-year process where you're like, I'm stopping, I'm quitting?
Never.
Really?
Never stopping, never quitting. I mean, I made it to the. I feel like. I don't know. I have to have somebody else from the scene like attest to it, but I felt like I made it to the finals so many times. And it's funny in my now late 30s where I'm like, oh, I understand why I would rap really well and I'd run out of steam. I was hungry. Like I would like not eat dinner or something, or like it would just the last round would be so late in the evening that like I just ran out of juice. Yeah. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. But like that first win was wild. I was actually about to throw like a charity event. And so I think I just had this extra energy where it was like, it's not even about me. I'm just trying to draw attention to this event that I'm doing that I'm going to make $0 off of, that I've pumped a bunch of money into because this was like around 2017. So like around just before, I think 45 round 1. Like, and it was just, I felt like I was complaining and wasn't doing enough to justify my complaining. And so like, I don't know. I just had like the spirit on my side, you know what I mean? Where it was like, this isn't about me. I'm just trying to drive people to this event. Yeah. And the brighter the light shown on me here, the more people I can pull into this event, the more money we can raise. So I think it was either Planned Parenthood or the ACLU. How
was the ACLU? Just for 45 round 1 time wise.
I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure. I think Planned Parenthood was the second one. But
nice. Not to say that Planned Parenthood doesn't need our money. They do. Right. But, bearing the fact that we're staring at 45 round 2, let's raise some more dollars.
Deja vu. But yeah, go support the ACLU.
For sure.
But it was like this very like crazy high and like definitely like an affirming and validating experience. I mean, at that point, I'd already felt validated and affirmed in different spaces. So for this, it was like, I don't know, I started coming to Freestyle Mondays, again, like 19 with my cousin's ID, just so I could come in and rap with the band, you know?
Right.
Like, and so for me to come from that to like finally like grabbing it was really, really powerful, man.
You know, I don't know if it's because of my age or what, but like as I check off more boxes in my life from a career perspective, it's hard to feel the win. And I don't know if it's because it's like happening later on, but like I've done some incredible shit the last 4 years, and like stuff that I'm like, I laugh at that I've done it. Like whether it's bands that I've photographed, whether it's fashion week shows that I've shot. I'm like, this is crazy. Like where I was 4 years ago to now and doing these things.
Yeah.
But like in the moment, I think maybe because my perspective on life and timing of things has changed, I don't feel it as like profoundly as I do when you look back with like enough runway behind you. Do you feel that similarly?
Yes, okay. I do. And it's something I've been trying to like train my brain to like work on and look at a little bit differently. What was it? Have you ever seen have you ever read or Watchmen or seen the movie Watchmen?
Of course. Okay. Like a million fucking times. And I've read the graphic novel.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Nerds of a feather.
Yeah.
So like there's that moment where what's her name? Sally Jupiter. The mom.
Yeah, the mom
is talking to the daughter.
Yeah.
And talking about the past and how like the further you get from it, even these really dark parts get brighter and brighter and brighter. And I think that there is something to be said for that nostalgia, kind of in the way that memory can kind of like paint things.
Rose colored.
I mean, I can't tell you how many joints I made and I was like, ugh, and I listened to them 5 years later and go, why did I put that out? Like, you know, like, oh, this actually, it was like, I would do it differently now, but there was some heat right there.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been, as you know, a freelancer and you work for yourself, I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if you feel the same way. Like, I think it's harder to celebrate because there's always something else that needs to get done. There's always something else that I could have done. There's always, I think being a classroom teacher is the same thing. You can be the best classroom teacher. You could do the best job you could possibly do, and it will never be 100. You'd be lucky if it's 70% of what you feel like the space might need or what you can contribute to it. And I think especially when you're working for yourself, like, I'm working on my relationship with my work. It's like I recognize that my dad would like cope with stress by working. And
not healthy, but
but recognizing like, oh, especially as a freelancer, you're working for yourself. Like, I think it's very easy to feel that fire and feel that pressure and like, but I don't know when it's going to be dry again. So like, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. But then it gets dry and you're like, where's everything? Where is it? And there's I have yet to carve out that middle ground where it's like, hey, we just did a really awesome thing.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment to just really sit with it and be present with that. Hold on to it because there's going to be a time where it's going to feel drier and I'm going to wish that I had a little bit more of that juice in the reservoir so that I could just like draw from it a little bit more. And also I think there's something to be said for not letting circumstance, whether circumstance be an interaction with a person, an interaction with an entity, whatever else, offset that joy. Like, it's okay to feel more than one thing at the same time, you know what I mean? And like, try to, again, like, just because I'm feeling bad about this, I don't know, my health insurance wasn't taken at this place and now my whole day is ruined, but like, I just presented at Harvard or something, you know what I mean? I'm
starting to realize like in this moment that it's less about feeling the win and then it's more about some other perceived FOMO or less than, and it's mostly, I think, from a social media perspective, it's like, I just did this cool thing, but I didn't do that really cool thing. So it's like, even in my victory, I'm still comparative to somebody else and like where I'm supposed to be at this phase of my life. I wonder, you know, I've always said like 25-year-old John couldn't have done what 35-year-old John did because I just didn't have the life experience. So it could just be one of those things where 35-year-old John doesn't have the ability or the capability of doing it till 45, right?
Yeah.
Or 55 or 65. Who the fuck knows? But I think that maybe like I'm learning in real time that it's there's always the next hurdle. There's always the next chapter. There's always the next thing. So it's like, I think if I'm being honest with myself, the ability to take stock and feel a victory in the moment would be a great superpower. I think it would also let me like give myself a little bit more grace when it comes to where I'm at, what I'm doing, and for anyone.
Dude, I with you on that 100%. I started doing, I call it my madman wall. Again, ADHD brain, short-term memory, you know what I mean? It's part of why I freestyle. I don't need to remember what I said. I don't need to remember the thing before I say it. Like, it just,
yeah.
But like, I realized I was forgetting these things. I'd have these accomplishments and I'd be like, I know that I run into this sometimes. I'll be out socially and people are like, oh, what you got coming up this week? And I go, and I'm like, I know I have, my brain's like, a lot.
Yeah.
But what is the a lot? I have no access to that filing bin. I have to look at my calendar and like pull it out.
But that's just old age.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, you're only as old as your ability to process new information. But
then I'm fucked.
See, I process it. I just don't always remember it. But
it's ADHD. But yeah, in a nutshell.
Which apparently there's an ADHD thing too about this, like, celebration stuff, and like it's because it's like, oh, this was probably due, so now I don't feel a celebration, I feel my guilt going away.
Ooh, okay.
Which becomes like kind of a different thing. But like, I would have to like write out on these post-its on this big chart paper, okay, January, these are all the things that I did to fuel my creative tank, bang 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 bang. Or like, okay, April, I was traveling. So, okay, this is noted here. And it's like, oh, I didn't feel like I did a lot in April. Yeah, bro, you were traveling. Mm-hmm. Like, just to kind of have that literally visually accessible. It is on my wall. Like, just you walk into my room and it's just there. Which I feel like someone might, I don't know. Hopefully, I like to think somebody would find it impressive and not scary. I had one of my cousins was like, bro, all you're missing is the yarn, and somebody think you're a serial killer. And I was like, no.
Or a detective.
Or a detective. Right. Or Charlie Day.
Yeah.
Like,
fucking love Charlie Day.
Bird Law.
The absolute best character ever written for television, bar none. The fucking absolute best. When is that coming back? That show needs to come back immediately. If you don't know, we're talking about Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Fucking the greatest character, one of the best shows of all time.
The greatest.
I digress. See, that's ADHD. We're going on a thing, and all of a sudden your wall turned into fucking Always Sunny. I love that. I'm curious. So, like, there's always this perception from a creative perspective that those who can't do teach. How do you butt up against the fact that you're still doing the thing, but also now imparting that knowledge upon other people? And does any part of you, in any way, shape, or form, not like that you teach? And, I'm curious.
I love teaching.
Okay.
I think that sharing brings out some of my best selves. Now, that saying does bother me, though, because do you know the rest of it?
Those who don't do teach, and I do, but I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, those who can do, those who can't teach, those who can't teach gym.
Oh, nice.
You can't teach gym. You probably got a lot of keys on your pocket.
Yeah.
But I try to buck a lot of those terms. Like, I've definitely gotten gigs, people be like teaching artist. And to me, a teaching artist is like an interested person who knows enough to give people basics, but like they don't really have an artist resume. They don't have like a career outside of their hobby, whatever they're probably doing to support themselves, just probably not that.
Sure.
And then this like kind of side gig where, expressing, sharing, again, very fulfilling, rewarding things. So for me, I prefer, I'm an artist/artist-educator. Like, I'm an artist who teaches and also teaches other artists.
Right.
So, I think for me, it's more just a vocabulary thing. Like, people be like teaching artist-educator.
Yeah.
People are like, students. I go, no, those are my friend-participants. Like I got friends who do my shit and I got friends who don't, like they participate. I don't know, even student, it feels like there's this power dynamic. Even if I'm working with little kids, I'll refer to them as participants. Like, just, treat people like people. So it is interesting though, because they are two different skill sets. There is overlap, and if you are commanding a classroom, in a way, you are emceeing, like in a very classical way. You are controlling a crowd. Yeah, like there is an energy, and you are direct to the best of your ability. Some days, more than others, but like directing that shit around. So there is an art and a craft to all of it. So I think for me, it's people's perception, but I do think that is changing, and I think especially as the arts funding gets more and more cut, you're seeing people who are maybe a little bit more specialized, specialized, and like just in different professional places, kind of popping in to do, like we were talking about earlier, like the assemblies and certain things like this. And then you have, I think, this at least financially like lower tier where you've got people who are like be grad students who are interested in little side gig and let's do this artsy thing that isn't me like studying geopolitics or whatever, Right. So it's interesting though, because at this point, like, I don't really get too much shade from it either way. And it's kind of, I think, developed this kind of symbiosis where anything that I create becomes an advertisement for the teaching, whether I want it to or not. Sure. And then the teaching also fuels what's happening on the art side, because there's a community of folks who fuck with me and are down to open to receiving what I'm sharing. So I like that. It's become like a cool thing. And I think as time progresses, and I don't know how much of this is just the arts or just in general, I do think that, I don't know, teachers, go hug a teacher. Yeah. Teachers need more pay, more love, and more appreciation. Definitely more in general. Definitely more pay. Definitely more pay. But not too many people have thrown any shade at the teaching or anything like that. Good. Yeah. I'm curious. So touching back on the social media aspect of things, I found, at least in my creative career as a photographer, podcast host, whatever you want to call me, entrepreneur, whatever the fuck ever. I hate that word. Entrepreneur. There are mechanisms in place to measure success, right? Yes. Whether it's clients, whether it's booking dollars, whether it's Instagram followers or whatever. How do you measure success? Where was I at previously? Because you mentioned earlier comparison, which I didn't make this phrase up. I wish that I did. But like I heard somebody say once, comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah. So I feel if I'm going to compare, then I'm going to compare myself to myself and do my best to practice honest observation without judgment. Okay. I don't know, something we do at Freestyle Fitness. A friend of mine randomly was like, you should read was it The Inner Game of Tennis or something, which was oddly, philosophically very aligned. But this kind of idea of like, watch yourself. Okay, this went left. I wanted it to go right. Like, all right, cool. Back pocket, stored, next. And I think being able to really practice that, like, because a lot of times I think there's a tendency to double down on ourselves. Oh, I made a mistake. Oh, and we try to punish ourselves sometimes for this thing where, you know, success and failure are really just code words for forward movement. And as long as we're moving forward, that means we're learning, that means we're progressing, that means we're alive and continuing. I think that's the most important part. Societally, I think we've been trained to like feel shitty about failures, where quote unquote failures are the moments where we learn the most and are able to apply those to, again, like, that forward movement. You know, forward is always the way home. It's always, always, always the way home.
I totally agree. I have had a podcast about it. I've written about it. Failure is like the F word that we're not allowed to say. And I feel like if we're able to own our failures in life and we're just much more open and honest about our perceived failures, right? Like losing your job, failure. Like not winning a rap battle, failure. But like all of these things inevitably will lead you to a place of where you're supposed to be anyway. Exactly. So like you can look at it as failure, cataclysmic ending of all things, and because of that perception, everything you do from that point on will be a failure,
right?
Because you're not framing it in the context of learning.
That's it, and that's why you hear me preaching the gospel of progress. Like my checklist for any event that I do as a performer, I think it's a little bit different as a facilitator, because I think there's just a little bit more responsibility in terms of the curation of the space, but especially just as a participant, it's, was I myself? Like, right, was I my authentic self? And did I have fun and or learn something? And if I can say yes to both of those things, then that is a success. That is how I would deem something a success. That's simple. Everything else on top is cherry, sprinkles, icing. Like, I win, great. Like, but each thing is always going to be the thing before the next thing. And the more you do, the less any one thing is going to weigh. So, like, was I myself? Did I have fun and or learn something?
Yeah, I like that because it's an extremely relatable perspective to have. And if you can, even if you're not yourself in those moments, you can still have fun even if you're like feeling anxious or outside of your skin in those situations. And I think inevitably they will lead you to hopefully feeling more comfortable and more yourself.
Yeah.
Because like it's scary. Yeah. What you do is scary. I could not get on fucking stage and like freestyle rap. Like, you kidding? I'd be like, what am I doing here?
I've met a lot of people who started like that though. It's a muscle. Just like anything else, it's like you don't go to the gym and pick up the heaviest thing in the room your first time in the gym.
Great analogy. I also think that there are people who are naturally inclined to pick heavy things up.
Some people.
So there are people who can freestyle and not. So I think you do have absolutely some natural inclination to do something like freestyle and lift heavy weights.
I'll say this though: when I first started, I couldn't string 3 words together.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah,
I just the image of that compared to where you are now seems like, I know we're talking 20 years later, obviously, but like it just seems like it had to have been a natural thing. Maybe it took time to unlock the skill set, the ability to access the knowledge of like stringing those kind of thoughts together in a moment's notice.
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem like, you know.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like it does build and I think I'm at a point now where I can just kind of like let go. You know, freestyle becomes an exercise in surrender more than it is grabbing really tight. You start to grab really tight. It's like
the sign spinning guy in Soul.
What's that?
You ever see the movie Soul? The Disney movie Soul?
No.
Or Pixar movie Soul? It's with Jamie Foxx. He's like a pianist and he's a music teacher. And there's like this guy who like is in the flow state or whatever. And he's like spinning a sign on the street, but he's like, whatever. Never mind. That's my ADHD.
You good, bro. Yeah. ADHD zone right now.
So like a lot of times you're like just like not even cognizant of what you're saying.
Yeah, half the time I'll come back and like regardless of what the crowd reaction was or whatever, they'll be like, "Oh, you said this and this," and I go, "Thanks." Yeah, I don't.
So you can't pre-plan a freestyle.
I mean, one can. Sure. I would advise against it in most situations because usually what will happen is you try to pre-plan, but the second that something that you planned in your head doesn't quite land on the beat the way that you get thrown, and then from there you're like, wait, what was I trying to say? And you put yourself in a place of trying to grab what you were trying to say instead of move toward the next thing, whatever that might be. So But it is funny though. Sometimes like owning certain things can make the situation, at least for the performer, more comfortable. I was at a jam recently. Shout out to Java Jam NYC every Tuesday in Brooklyn. Shout out my man Nori. But like one of those things where I like came in, it's my first time in this jam. It's a brand new space for me. Everything's recorded. It's like, it's a really cool concept, and the musicians rotate. Nori, this really talented MC, will like kind of pull people from the crowd, vocalists and in and out, Like Hannibal Buress showed up last week, like bro, it just came up and just started ripping. It was cool.
That is cool.
But like I was there and I was like, damn, I have no idea what I want to talk about. Like, right, I couldn't even aim myself. Like, because you can pre-plan, and some people are really good at composing in their heads.
Yeah.
I think for me, the furthest I go with that is I think of them as like off-ramps. Like I might have a word or an idea that I know I want to touch on, but I don't know how I'm going to touch on it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Mm-hmm. But I know it's almost like fruit from a tree sometimes, where I'm like, ooh, I'm going to grab this.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to grab that. Oh, but I was there going, I have no idea. I don't usually smoke sativas, and I'm sitting here like, I am way too high for this right now. Oh my God. And I got up there, and thank God the chorus was la la la, la la la. So I was like, cool, art imitates life. All right, cool. I'm just gonna grab and run with the weed theme. Bum, 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 bum. And the second I told the crowd that I was too high for this and I smoked too much sativa, I felt infinitely better and was able to just unlock and just go. So sometimes that ownership can be, yeah. And I said it, and they reacted like I said a joke. But I was like, no, this is real. Like, cool. All right, okay. We're all good with this.
That is a safe space, but I was freaking the fuck out 5 seconds
for
ago.
a second. Yeah. But just one of those where I'm like, so when that mic goes in my hand, my brain was just lint and dust. You know what I mean? Where I was just like,
it's very interesting.
So like it can happen, you know.
Have you ever gotten up to a battle or spoken word, open mic, whatever, and been blank? Like actually been blank? Or is that like maybe like an early on kind of thing?
Early on, maybe. Yeah. Maybe. I've had a couple situations where like I felt like I was like not quite in artist mode, and I was kind of just in like civilian mode, and I had a couple people just come at me, not in like a battle-y way even, but just kind of come at me with raps and be going like, what? Oh, like, no.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if the expectation was to like exchange or not, but just kind of like, oh, I was just being a human right now.
Yeah.
But earlier on, I did have an experience many, many years ago, late night decisions, and it was one of the first times where like, I don't know, it must have been like 3 a.m. and the mic gets put in my hand, and this was the first time in a long time. This is probably circa 2016, maybe a little earlier. And this is when like the lesson jam was still happening in Lower East Side. We were given the mic, and then sitting here going, I'm supposed to say stuff. And it just came out. I don't know. It was one of those things where I think the crowd like responded to it better than I did internally. But one of those where I was like, I just felt like so when I freestyle in my head, I'm kind of like the way the visual I have is I'm at a table, right? I'm sitting in a chair. I'm blindfolded. I am surrounded by filing bins, all this information. And then there's these like tools. Well, let's call them like the techniques tools, right? Like punchlines or a certain flow or like a rhyme scheme pattern or whatever, a reference, this and that. And so I'm just like putting these things together and spitting them out. And I would just reach for words, and there was nothing there. Nothing there, which I think since I only experienced after some like head trauma, a gnarly concussion like 2018, and I had a pretty gnarly one last year, February, and had to like do some building back from that, which is actually a pretty interesting process. But like it was one of those things where I was like, oh, cool. So me and certain situations and this, like I can make it work. And just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I feel that. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I'm curious because it's such a unique life, right? It's such a unique occupation. It's such a unique thing that you do. And it comes inherently from a creative output that at a moment's notice has to be, manifested out of nothing. And if you're concussed or too high, or maybe it's just Tuesday and you're depressed and you don't have anything good to say. Mm-hmm. I could imagine what that would be like. You're sitting in a room full of 5,000 people, and you're just like, I have nothing to fucking say.
Well, and also sometimes what you need to say isn't what you want to say.
Oh,
that for me is like the I work with Freestyle Love Supreme, and sometimes we'll do this game True. And True, the premise of it is usually the get is, you know, something you can't live without, and then you tell like a true story from your life related to this word, whatever that is. And I have had moments where I was like, oh my God, I just told these thousands of kids that I go to my therapist and that I take medication and but I didn't plan on saying any of this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like one of those where like, mental health is super important to me. Like it's come up a bunch in this conversation, but one of those moments where, again, it's what I needed to say. It's what needed to happen in that moment. And it scared the ever-loving fucking shit out of me. I stopped rapping and almost started crying. Yeah. Like one of those where I was just shaking and could feel like this something else go through me. And what did I just do? Oh my God. Like there is this like vulnerability thing where it's, you know, sometimes like what you want to say and what I would have much rather have this moment where I just say this silly thing and we talk about Marvel Comics characters and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But instead it was just like, oh yeah, this is how my mental health screws got loose over the pandemic. And this is what happened. And this is what I've been doing to try to take care of myself. Bam, 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 bam. But again, like,
but isn't that, it's like an incredibly relatable.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. And I can zoom out and I can look back at that experience and go, I'm so proud of myself. Like that was incredible that I did that. And also in that moment, it was one of the most terrifying things because I didn't plan on sharing this information. Mm-hmm. I didn't plan on getting so personal.
Were you in a depressive state going into that performance? Like, were you in a, because I'm wondering if like in a moment of like, you're having a great day, best day ever, that freestyle might be different from the day where you're like, I didn't want to get out of bed today. I didn't want to be here. I don't want to do this. Does that impact? Yeah.
It could be. It could be. Yeah. This was like a good day though. And I think it was honestly just the way the song went. And I forget whose verse came before mine, but it was one of those where I'm just like listening. And where my listening took me emotionally, it was like, this is what I need to say. And right, I feel it's like any difficult conversation, whether it's in private or anything, like it is hard to be vulnerable and say difficult things.
Totally.
Whether you plan to say them or it just kind of happens in that moment. So this is one of those like, oh shit, it just happened in the moment. Oh God.
Yeah. I find vulnerability to be a superpower, and people understandably look at it as potentially a bad thing because you're putting your state of risk, right? By opening yourself up to someone perceiving what you have to say in a bad way, you're also opening yourself up to either be let down or disappointed. I ultimately think that if you're able to live or articulate life in a manner that gives yourself space to be vulnerable, you're cheating. Like that's great. Like that's a cheat. That's a cheat code.
Yeah. I think it's important, and it's something especially we're leaning into like improv. I think any sort of improv, like freestyle rap especially, it's really hard to fake the funk, man. Yeah. Even telling yourself, I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to say this. Might be the thing.
Yeah, right.
It just comes out. Like we all have mental clutter. You know.
I like the analogy of the filing cabinets because I relate to that. Like pulling ideas and I like that a lot.
Just like,
yeah, no, for real though, because like it's a fascinating career that you've chosen because, and granted, I don't think you chose it so much as it chose you. It's one of those things where like you realized this is your thing, right?
Well, if you would have told me 10, 15 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. Yeah. Like this wasn't.
Well, you're a kid at NYU. You know, that's like a different human being from the person
who had no support from any of his friends, had no support from his family, people were just like, "You're doing what?"
Yeah,
and.
If you were talking to a room full of kids right now who are on the precipice of being given the opportunity to graduate college, high school, and they've got their whole lives in front of them, what's something that you would tell them about the next phase, the next chapter of their life?
Follow your smile. Your smile is one of your body's and mind's most natural indicators as to whether something is aligned with you. Like it could be a relationship, could be anything. If it makes you smile, you should probably pursue it. And if you can't imagine yourself smiling with it, at it, in that situation, then you should probably let it go. And I think that's going to be like a very internal thing. Like I know for me with this is something that always brought me joy, always made me smile. And I had to shut out a lot of voices who I think came from good intentions, concern, you know, like we talked about, like highway people versus back road people. The highway people just hear a lot of scary stories about the back road.
Sure.
And that's valid. Those are real, you know, and not everybody gets trapped in that.
True.
So follow your smile, like be yourself. Ultimately, like the most badass thing, the most hip hop thing, the most punk rock thing anybody could do is be themselves, and that's going to act as a natural, that between your that and your smile is going to act as a natural filter for things. Not everything is meant for, what's meant to be is meant to be. What's meant for me is meant for me, and if it ain't in alignment, I don't want to find it.
I fucking love that. Well, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the pod today. I'm so happy for you to come through. Shout out to Jackie Paris for hooking us up and putting us together.
Hey.
But yes, you're a good human being, man. I appreciate you coming on, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Right back at you, John. Thank you for having me, brother.
My pleasure, man. Take it easy.